Yes, people, what's going on? Welcome back to the channel, Football Therapy, with me, your host, Jan. I hope you're doing well, mate. I really do hope that... Are Chelsea going to qualify for the Champions League? What is Pochettino's full strength Chelsea team? What does it look like? What is it going to look like? It should be pretty darn strong, and it should be back to the original Pochettino design in terms of how he wants this Chelsea team to play. We're going to be discussing that today. What does this full strength Chelsea look like, and why it can qualify for the Champions League? Settle in, get comfortable. I'll thank you for subscribing to this channel, Football Therapy, if you want to, and should you choose to do so, you should hit that sweet, sweet bell, baby. Also, back by popular demand, I'm going to bring back the end screen. Very Football Therapy 2020. Why not bring back the old intro and the old outro to mix things up a little bit and go down the road of nostalgia? Heck, I'm gonna do it. So look, it's important to note, Chelsea are only playing one game a week. Now, this is a really big and salient point because when you don't have midweek European games to plan for, you can focus all your attention on your domestic competition in the Premier League. And yes, the Premier League is a cruel mistress with horrendously difficult opposition, but surely a club of Chelsea's size and stature with a week to prepare every week should be able to start beating the likes of Nottingham Forest at home eventually. Chelsea's underlying stats are actually pretty good, except for goals. Of course, the main stat that counts, but we're getting a lot of possession, a lot of passes in the opposition box. Generally, things are looking positive in that sense, and of course, Chelsea's player fitness is really high, and Pochettino's coaching staff don't actually get their teams into peak fitness until after the first international break, which of course is this international break. All things considered holistically, with important players returning, more time to get the ideas of the coaching staff into their heads, and more time to actually develop some chemistry with their new teammates, which they haven't had much time, of course, yet. Hopefully, Chelsea should be moving in the right direction to qualify for Europe, and indeed the Champions League. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that maybe this season in the Premier League, finishing 5th might qualify you for the Champions League. In fact, I think there's like a 50% chance that it will do, which is pretty high, of course. So in this video, I want to highlight the full strength Chelsea Football Club's team, the full strength and preferred starting 11, at least how I see it, which would allow Pochettino's team to play how he wants them to play, originally by design, not this peculiar asymmetrical fill-in team in the meantime. No, his preferred starting 11 play style, the 4-2-3-1, that's how he likes to play, but with players playing in their native positions, not out of position, and more importantly, really significant returning players from injury. So let's start in goal. Of course, Robert Sanchez will remain first choice goalkeeper. He has raised a lot of collective eyebrows from the Chelsea fans, but as things stand, of course, with Ben Roberts and the coaching staff, he is Chelsea's number one. Now, that is not necessarily secure long term. Of course, we've signed Georgia Petrovic. He looks like a really good goalkeeper, and there are many people behind the scenes at Chelsea that believe Petrovic can become Chelsea's number one goalkeeper, and he can take Robbo Sanchez's place. So maybe, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. He was still very cheap and from the MLS, so we need to see him close up for longer. And the goalkeeping staff also need to see him for longer. Sanchez will remain in goal. Now, give me Ben Chilwell at left back. None of this left wing nonsense. Move him back into his native position where he can make advancing high octane runs, but from deep. A deeper starting point which suits Ben Chilwell so much more. He's good at defending. He can play left back. He doesn't need to play left wing. He won the Champions League playing left wing back, and of course Pochettino's fullbacks are so aggressive. They pretty much play like wing backs anyway. They stay pinned forwards, but they retreat back, and of course Chilwell makes great runs, late runs into the 18-yard box to score goals, but he's always done that from the fullback starting point, not from this peculiar higher up left wing starting point that he's been playing for Pochettino of late. Get rid of that, start him at left back. Now, we're only going to be playing two centre backs in this 4-2-3-1, so they have to be young, versatile, and they have to cover a lot of space. So for me personally, even though Thiago Silva is playing really well, I am going to play Levi Colwill at left centre-back and another left footer in Benoit Badiashile at right centre-back. You don't see this often, two left footers, but it can actually be a really helpful way to deploy your defence in terms of the opposition attackers don't really know how to play against him, because yes, on the left side you expect a left footer to play and get the ball onto his left and have certain passing lanes available to him, but when the right centre-back was also left-footed, it screws with the strikers' heads a little bit, and perhaps they're not usually used to that or expecting the passes that end up coming from them. Levi Colwill and Badiashile both have excellent passing, they're both really dynamic, and they're both athletic. They offer different things slightly as well, so I think that's a really good young partnership to develop long term. Personally, I would eventually like to see Wesley Fofana come into that right centre-back spot. I'm a huge fan of him, as many of you will know, but he's probably not going to be with us for the majority of the season, maybe not this season at all. So I want to see Levi Colwill partnering Benoit Badiashile in a back two in terms of centre-backs. A crucial returning player, of course, is Chelsea's captain, who we should be seeing very soon indeed, and that is, of course, Reece James. Reece James is a devastating right-back. He's amazing defensively. He can lock down the likes of Rafa Leao and Vinicius Jr. defensively. But also, he's clutch. He goes and scores goals, he goes and creates goals, he can beat up the opposition. Granted, he has to stay fit to do all these things, but if he's brought back appropriately this time, and I know we say that every time, he's such a key figure for Chelsea. For me, I've said recently, Chelsea's two best players are probably Enzo Fernandez and Reece James. So you want them both on the pitch, and Reece James returning to the side will offer Chelsea so much. And that back four, for me, under Pochettino's coaching, who, remember, is an amazing coach of both fullbacks and centre-backs, can develop so good long term, and Chelsea can be a devastating offensive force from that back four, but also an incredibly solid defense as well. Double pivot time, baby, and this one, you know, pretty much picks itself. It's a £220 million double pivot, of course, and that is World Cup winner Enzo Fernandez, who of course won playing for Argentina last night against Ecuador. Of course, Caicedo's Ecuador, who he didn't have the greatest game comparatively to Enzo Fernandez. And I don't know if you guys have seen on social media, Enzo Fernandez did that audacious flick pass forwards. He's just incredible. I don't want to constantly wax lyrical about Enzo Fernandez. I know he cost 105 million. Absolutely, I will not sweat a bead of sweat that in terms of thinking that wasn't worth it. I think he's incredible. And yes, he will, out of the two of Caicedo and himself, Enzo, he will be the more advanced in the double pivot. He will be playing the number 8, which you get sometimes in the double pivot. Caicedo will stay deeper, defend transitions, make tackles, still advance the ball up and progress it, but essentially keep the back four locked down, and that's what he's good at. Enzo will take the ball off him. He can play a little bit of a regista, keep things ticking over, that metronomic style of play, kind of like a Galactico Jorginho, a little bit more of a sexy Jorginho, but of course he can advance forward, play make in the final third, do those short passes, those short through balls. Very exciting indeed, and that really, in terms of quality, is an incredible double pivot, and we really need to start coaching and locking it down, those two, getting that partnership sorted for long term. Of course, they're going to be hopefully playing together for Chelsea like for a decade, but you need to get that chemistry started now. So start coaching them together now in that 4-2-3-1 double pivot. Arguably the biggest absentee is Christopher Nkunku as a number 10. Yes, it was only pre-season, but it looked like Pochettino was planning his whole attack around him. He looks like such an integral figure. Of course, on EAFC, he's Chelsea's highest rated player. I don't know how much stock you put into that, but certainly he's our most important attacker, and he won't be back until midway through the season. But as soon as he's ready, you can put the farm on him being slam dunked straight back into that starting lineup to play in that role, that 4-2-3-1 number 10 role behind a striker. Of course, he can sort of drift wide and drift deep, and he can even play in the striker position. He can play everywhere. He will absolutely have the free role of a number 10. He'll score goals, he'll assist goals, but almost more importantly, he'll interlink play in such a way where opposition defenses don't know what to do, which, you know, might not get him the goal or might get him to assist the goal, but the attack generally will have more chance of scoring. So he might get, like, you know, the pre-assist, or just generally move the defenders in such a way that the play offers an opportunity for someone else to score a goal. He's that important. So Christopher Nkunku, does come straight into the lineup. Now, another semi-obvious one for now is Nico Jackson up front. Of course, we're going to see Armando Broja return eventually, and of course, the aforementioned Christopher Nkunku can play as a striker, and Pochettino did play him quite a lot as a striker in pre-season, but for the moment, Nico Jackson does look like he's well prepared for Premier League football. It would have been nice for him to get another goal, but still, he scored a good goal for Chelsea. He's linked up well. He's got in the right positions in terms of having chances. You know, he looks really, really good as a striker for Chelsea. He did link up very well, of course, with Christopher Nkunku in pre-season, and I think his return will make Nico Jackson actually quite a lot better in terms of his Premier League performances, which haven't been bad. Obviously, he had that really bad miss against Forest, but up until that game, generally, you know, journalists, broadcasters, reporters were waxing lyrical about Nico Jackson, saying, yeah, he looks pretty good for Chelsea. He's very young, but he looks like, you know, a little bit of coaching. He could be Chelsea striker. And that remains the case. So he, of course, is in Chelsea's ideal preferred starting lineup as the centre forward. Now, for the right wing, I'm keeping Raheem Sterling. He was frustrating last time out in that loss, but who wasn't? Up until then, the first 3 games of the season, Raheem Sterling looked like our best attacker. Of course, he got 2 goals and an assist in the game against Luton. Of course, that was Luton at home, but he did look very good against Liverpool and West Ham, again, in a dysfunctional, holistic performance from the team. Raheem Sterling looks like he was A-game is back. He wants to get back into the England squad. He looks incredibly fit. And, you know, he's 28 years old. He's said it himself. He's not ready to, like, not be obsessed about football anymore. You think this is, like, the last segment of his career where he wants to be prime Raheem Sterling, showing what he can do in the Premier League and then hopefully in Europe and, again, for England. There is an incredible player in there. He's a senior attacker as well. We're quite short on those. And Pochettino seems to like him. And he does look very good on the right sometimes. So, of course, we've got Noni Madueke. You know, Chelsea have got loads of other players they've signed that can play on the right. But for the moment, for this season, the first choice 11, when everyone's fit and hopefully in form, Raheem Sterling starts on the right for me. And this one's a little bit of a wild card. Of course, he's a huge talking point at the moment, and that is Mykhailo Mudryk. Mudryk has been spoken about in terms of incredible raw power and potential, you know, ridiculously fast, a ridiculously fast carrier of the ball. He's got such a powerful shot on him. If you watch like the highlights of Mudryk when he plays well, he's got this absolute cannon on him that, you know, you can't, if he gets it on target, which we haven't really seen for Chelsea yet, then you can't save it. So he can run in transition and just blast through people and essentially blow the net off like Erling Haaland style. We've got a lot to do before we see that, I think. It's about finding a way to put Mudryk in the side when you're not playing, you know, on the counter attack, you know, with him attacking space. If you've got the ball, you've got to find a way Mudryk can play in between. But he can do that. We've seen like the one-touch link-up he did with Nico in pre-season. Again, pre-season. But it's there. It's there to be seen. Of course, you could say Sterling on the left and then Madueke on the right. Or you could think Maatsen on the left or Nkunku on the left and the Chukwuemeka in the middle. But I do think, come the end of the season, with a little bit of coaching, if you can find his way into the team and how to play him, I think he could be devastating on the attack. You'll always find him on the transition. He'll be your like outlet to break. But you could also find a way for him to interlink in terms of play with the ball in the final third when the opposition's defending. I think just because he's got a powerful shot, I think because he's got technical feet, with Pochettino's coaching, he can make it work. You know, think of all the amazing attackers Pochettino has coached over the years or made something out of players that perhaps were nowhere near that level. I'm talking about Dele Alli or Son or whoever. So it's possible. Of course, not everyone will agree with me. People will have their own variations of this lineup. People also need to consider players off the bench who can make an effect, or maybe a couple of players I've selected you'd have on the bench and you'd bring them off the bench. Maybe like the aforementioned Mudryk. But I'll be really, really interested to hear what you guys think. I know it's a difficult time for Chelsea and people are like, you know, upset and frustrated, understandably, but with time, with coaching, and with these returning players that I've spoken about, there's no reason Chelsea can't qualify for the Champions League, especially they've got one game a week. If they don't, if they finish, say, like 7th, it will, of course, be a really, really negative return for Chelsea. But it is a long-term project with young players. I know that's not exciting. I know that's not sexy, but it's kind of sensible. Anyway, let me know what you think. Comment down below. I look forward to reading your comments. Please do consider liking and subscribing. And if you want more content from me, do consider checking out my sister channel, Football Yannick. It's just like football therapy, but Yannick instead of therapy. Alright, take care of yourselves. Peace.
so tough with that bad boy talk. I'ma get it how I'm living, I'ma walk the walk. Outline my lines, I rap through thought. Body bag the verse, outlined in chalk. In my life seen trouble, hustle on the double. Silence on the trigger like my pick got a muzzle. Yo, chick like to guzzle, bad boy stay in trouble. I only love this paper, sorry I don't. I laugh me, baby.